Hey guys, it's Neil from the Schoolbusters, and before I get started today, I just want to give a big shout out to our newest superfan member, Matt Moore. If you want to join Matt Moore and becoming a member, just hit the button below and don't forget to subscribe. So getting back to today's video, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to get gold for International A Master License. So let's kick things off and start with IA1. Now, starting with this one, it can be a little bit tricky. I've put mine on traction control on 2. So straight away, this is our braking point, so it's really early. So you're dropping it right down here now off the brake, on and off the accelerator, and then now back on the accelerator as fast as you can. And then here is the next braking point. So you kind of like lift off and brake, braking in, then off the brake again. This is the second one, so that one's kind of like a slight brake, and then this is a full, like, dropping it right down. So then you're back on again here, through the section, flat out, slight lift here if you need to. And then you get to this point, just before the curb on the right hand side there's your braking point. So you're braking in, off the brake now, let the car roll over the accelerator to get a little bit of speed, and then back on as fast as you can once that car straightens up, and you won't get any oversteer. And that should hopefully help you achieve gold. So as always, I'll show you my settings. I'm always on controller, it's always automatic. My traction control is always on 1, but for this race in particular I put mine on 2, and it helped me achieve gold. Everything else is switched off. Let's move on to the next one. And this car's a little bit of an handful. I don't know why I was checking my settings then, but yeah. Moving on to this one, IA2. So again, this car can be a little bit of a handful. Starting straight off here, there's no braking point around this section here. So what you want to do as soon as you approach here now is you want to lift off, accelerate the car and roll into this section, then back on, flat out here now, move over to the left hand side, and then now, there's your braking point. So you're lifting off the accelerator, brake here, into the corner, off the brake, let the car kind of drift through, and then again here is another little touch of the brake on this point here now. A little dab of the brake, let the car roll into it, and then back on the accelerator as fast as you can. Don't snatch it too soon coming out of that exit, because the car will go sideways. So you just kind of wait for it to straighten up and then go for the accelerator. So as always, I will show you my settings. Automatic traction control on 1, everything else is turned off. As I mentioned before, I'm on controller, all my guides are always on controller. So let's move on to IA3. Again, another little tricky one, this one. There's only one braking point, and it's coming up straight away at the beginning of the lap. So follow the racing line, move over to the left, 100 metre mark, there is our braking point. So what you want to do is brake heavy, off the brake now, let the car drift kind of thing, into the corner, back on, and then all this next section is like kind of lift off and on. So you're kind of like lifting on and off the accelerator into the corners, in the same way this one, on and off, and then that should give you a good momentum. No need to brake through that last couple of sections there, just on and off of R2. So imagine like you're pulling the trigger on, you know, your R2, on and off through the corners. You're gaining momentum through the corner without braking. So as I said before, automatic, traction control 1, everything's turned off. Let's move on to the next one, IA4. Again, another car that's a little bit of an handful. It's got quite a bit of oversteer if you snatch it too soon. So just be careful with this car. So straight away, braking point. This is it. Nice and early. Dropping it right down through the corners, off the brake, turn, and on back on the brake, and then straighten it up, flat out through all that section there now. Move over, follow the racing line to the right hand side here. As soon as you can get to this point, there's your braking point, nice and early into this corner. So you need to drop it quite a bit down, off the brake now, kind of let it roll on and off the accelerator, and then back on. little dab of the brake is here. So you're kind of like dropping it down a little bit, not too much. And then back on. You need a good exit coming out of there. If you do get a good exit coming out of there, you'll keep up with the ghost. And then we're coming into the last section. And we're looking for our next braking point. And that is all that bit there is flat out. There is our braking point, nice and early. So kind of like lift off and then brake into this. Braking quite a bit down there. Off the brake now, let the car roll, feather the accelerator, and then now R2 fully down. And that should hopefully help you achieve gold. Bit of a tricky one, like I said, that one. You've got to be careful with the exits with that car, because it can oversteer quite a lot. So, assist settings, on controller, automatic. If you are struggling, put traction control on 2, I've done it on 1. Everything else is switched off. Like I say, it is a bit of a tricky car, that one. So be careful when you're coming out of the corners. Just be careful you don't snatch it too soon. So let's move on to the next one, IA5. And again, another little tricky one, this. So this bit is flat out. Follow the racing line. Bring the car over to the left hand side straight away. And what you want to do here now is a slight touch of the brake. So you're just dropping the speed down a little bit as you approach. And then brake again here. This is where you're putting your brakes on heavy now, really heavy. That one was a slight touch, this is really heavy. Dropping it right down nice and tight, hold that inside. And then another little touch of the brake here. Flick it in. Follow the racing line. Just kind of like little lift the accelerator if you feel like you need to. And then kind of flicking it in. And then onto the brake. Nice and early before the corner, off the brake, and then kind of feather it, and then now once the car straightens up, R2 flat out and over start finish. Bit tricky. It's not one of my favourite tracks, that one. It's if you touch one of the walls you are getting a fail. So automatic on controller. If you are struggling, try 2. I've done it on 1. Everything else is switched off. Like I say, there's similar cars where they can oversteer, and you do lose traction when you come out the the exits of the corners. So be careful with them, and they are a bit frustrating. So let's move on to the next one, IA6, another wet track. This time on Le Mans. I've done this on traction control 1. I normally put it on like 2 or 3 in the wet, but I found it was easy and doable for me on 1. So this is our braking point, nice and early. So you're dropping it right down and then off the brake now, just before you see that curb. Keep it nice and tight to the left hand side, sweeping in to the right here. Don't be too heavy with the R2, just be gentle with it. So here's our next braking point, again nice and early before the curb. So you just brake in, touch the brakes, on and off with the brakes. Dropping it down, let the car roll into that, and then now flat out. Be gentle, like I say, with the R2, because it is wet. It can kind of snake, as you can see there. Then I think that I've done that in 1 attempt actually. I think that's probably why it's on 1. But if you are struggling, turn that traction control up, it will help you. Like on the previous one, I put it on traction control on 3. Normally in the wet, it does help a lot. So as always, on controller, and everything else is turned off. Traction control was on 1. So now let's move on to the next one. It's IA7. Again, another tricky one, this. Brake balance offset to -3. The traction control was set to 2. So this is our first braking point, which is the 100 metre mark. Drop it right down off the brake, let the car roll over the apex there, and then back on the accelerator. Don't snatch it too soon. There is our next braking point. So it's not a hard brake, but it's just a nice little touch of the brakes, and then let the car roll through this section, on and off with the accelerator, and then flat out here. You've got to be really confident through this section. You've got to nail the racing line. If you do feel like you're going to drift out with it in any section, just give a really subtle slight lift. But if you lift off or even touch the brake, you're not going to get gold. You've got to be really confident enough just to absolutely floor it through that section. The car will grip. So settings, I had my traction control on 2. Make sure you put on 2, it does help. Offset the brakes to -3, everything else is switched off. Let's move on to the next one, IA8, and this one is a bit of a tricky one. This one, you can struggle with this one. I think I did it quite a few times. I'd recommend putting traction control onto 2. Straight away, first thing you want to do is hit the brakes really hard, just after the 300 and between 2. Dropping it right down, and then off the brake, kind of feather the accelerator R2 on and off, and then again just before the turn is brake here, then off the brake, let the car roll on and off the accelerator flat out, and then now R2 fully down, follow the racing line over the bridge, flat out, same here. And then you're approaching the next braking point, which is here. Just lift off and then touch the brake. Not a big braker, but just touch it and then off the brake, let the car roll and then flat out as fast as you can. And hopefully that will help you achieve gold. So again, like I said, it is a tricky one, that one. Can be a bit of an handful, the car. So let me show you my settings again. On controller, automatic. Its default is set to 1 for me, but I'd recommend put it on 2. Everything else is switched off. Is an handful, is a tricky one, and it is frustrating. So let's move on to the next one, Mazda i8-9, and again another tricky one. So torque distribution, I put to 50-50, brake balance -3. There's no traction control because we're on snow. So straight away, big braking section here now, nice and early, touch the brake here. And then it just gains control, and then off the brake, flick it in, on and off the accelerator as you're doing this, straighten up, back on, and then lift off and touch the brake again. I was really tight here, but it managed to work out. So then it flicks round, flat out here again, give it a little touch of the brake in a second, coming up now, here, touch the brake really early because you need to drop this right down into this corner, dropping it right down off the brake, on and off the accelerator here, just to gain some kind of traction, and it keeps it nice and tight, flowing. Braking here again, off the brake, kind of let the car roll on and off R2, and then once you kind of get to here, flat out. You just need to keep all that section nice and tight so that you get a good exit for this start finish. Hopefully that will help you achieve gold. It is really tricky, that one. So as I said to before, torque distribution was 50-50, brakes was offset to -3, automatic, I'm on controller, no traction control, everything else is switched off. Really tricky one. So let's move on to the last one, IA10, and this can be a real pain in the arse, this one. So brakes offset to -3, and you've got to be really confident with this. So as soon as you start, there's your braking point, and it's just sharp dabs of the brake on and off, they're quick. That's how sharp you've got to be with it. Flat out, be really confident, keeping that foot right down, otherwise you won't get it. You've got to brake hard and quick. So as soon as you brake, you're coming off the brake and then getting back on the accelerator. That's how quick you've got to be with this. Another braking point coming up in the section, through this section in a minute. This is all flat out, by the way. If you feel like you need to do so, lift, but you've got to do it flat out. You've got to be super confident. Your car will grip. That's how you've got to be confident with it. So this is the next braking point here. So straight away off the brake, and then back on, and then back on the brake again early before the corner. So you're braking, you've got to be really sharp with these brakes. Off the brake, let the car roll, and then back on fast as you can, flat out, and then again straight away another dab of the brake here into this corner, off the brake, feather that accelerator as you go round, and then flat out as soon as you can, get back on it, and then it's another little touch of the brake here, let the car roll into this. So So off the brake straight away, let the car roll into that, and then back on as soon as you can. So it's a little short lift and then on. Honestly, you've got to be super confident with this. I've done this on Circuit Experience Gold, so that's why I'm that confident with it. It is a super tricky one, that one. It did take me quite a few attempts, but I did get it. So, assist settings, automatic, traction control. If you're struggling, maybe just notch it up one. Everything else is switched off. Our rewards for completing all gold, and as always, the last car you do it with is the one that you collect. So I hope this guide helps. If it did, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.